quite impressive. But what about in other parts of the Korean society?
Well, for that, we have our Yoo Li-an joining us for a recap of the week's domestic headlines.
Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and start with the Chosun Ilbo, which is carrying a special series on North Korean residents' thoughts on reunification. Now, the headline reads, North Korean residents reunification needed for economic development. So the paper conducted this extensive survey of 100 North Koreans who work in China. The graph here shows 95% or 95 of the 100 felt a need for reunification, with most of them saying they will be the direct beneficiaries. Now, when asked why the two Koreas should reunite, nearly half of the respondents said for economic development, and a third said it should happen under South Korea's capitalist system. When asked when it's likely to happen, more than half answered within 5 to 10 years. Now, it also turns out they are very interested in South Korean pop culture. Now, the headline here reads, from Haeju to Cheongjin, all watch South Korean TV, enjoy Kim Yeon-ah TV commercials. Kim Yeon-ah is, of course, Korea's star figure skater. Now, here you can see the map of North Korea and the cities of Haeju and Cheongjin, and on the opposite corners of the country, indicating that virtually most North Koreans across the country watch South Korean media. Now, the stats down here show that nearly half of those surveyed have watched South Korean TV, and about 80% say their view of South Korea turned more positive after watching the South Korean dramas and TV shows. To sum it up, most North Koreans, at least according to this survey, feel friendly towards the South and hope for reunification in the near future. Now, moving on over to Chosun Ilbo, the headline here reads, time for revolution, all eyes on Lee Jae-yong, Tim Cook. Now, you see the two men down here and also their company's stock price fluctuations this month. As you may remember, Samsung laid out a worse than expected second quarter report card earlier this week. And in contrast, you see Apple's rising stock prices. Now, the paper says that the two successors, well, Lee, who is more like a successor in waiting, are building up their company's competitive edge to battle in the post-smartphone era. Lee is attempting to remake Samsung by concentrating on devices for mobile healthcare that can be used for to diagnose diseases, while the paper says that Apple CEO Tim Cook is getting friendlier with the company's competitors by working with Microsoft and ending its patent battle with Google. Now, finally, we take a look at how algae could be used to fly jets. The headline here reads, Korea's FA-50 fighter jet flies with fuel made out of algae. Now, here you see researchers from the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology in a lab with bottles of algae, which they say they'll begin experimenting with starting next year in an attempt to turn them into biofuel for aircraft. The paper says that would make Korea the second country in the world after the United States to experiment with algae fuel. Now, algae is gaining a great deal of attention as a potential source of biofuel as it grows extremely fast. It's rich in oil and is environmentally friendly as it absorbs carbon dioxide. But Korea is still in the experimental stage, and the professor here from KAI says the technology could be commercialized within 10 years. Now, that does it for this week's look at some of the top stories from the local papers.